The night was thick with a palpable tension as I stepped out of my patrol car. The rain had been falling relentlessly, painting the streets in shimmering streaks of silver. I adjusted my rain-soaked cap and tightened the grip on my flashlight. The call had come in. An anonymous tip about a potential disturbance at the abandoned, dilapidated mansion on the edge of town. With each step I took toward the mansion, the sense of unease grew. The building stood like a forgotten relic, shrouded in darkness and overgrown foliage. Its windows were shattered, the glass fragments glinting menacingly in the faint moonlight. I could feel the weight of history and the weight of my own apprehension as I approached the entrance. I pushed open the creaking door and the pungent smell of decay greeted me. My flashlight pierced through the darkness, casting eerie shadows that danced across the decaying walls. The floorboards groaned beneath my boots, adding to the unsettling ambiance. Something about the scene sent shivers down my spine, as if the very air held secrets waiting to be uncovered. As I ventured deeper into the mansion, my senses were assaulted by a chilling sight. The room I entered was splattered with dark stains that marred the peeling wallpaper and rotted furniture. The flickering light revealed the gruesome tableau. A body, sprawled on the floor in a pool of congealed blood. I could feel my heart race, my breath growing shallow. The victim's lifeless eyes stared at me, an accusation frozen in time. My training kicked in, and I called in the Discovery requesting backup and forensics. But as I waited for my colleagues to arrive, a sense of vulnerability crept over me. The shadows seemed to grow darker, and every creak and whisper echoed through the desolate mansion. Time seemed to stretch as I stood there, alone with the corpse and the haunting surroundings. A feeling of being watched bore down on me, making my skin crawl. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows. When the backup finally arrived, relief washed over me. But as my fellow officers combed the scene for evidence, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled, and I turned to the open doorway, where the rain outside tapped an eerie rhythm against the broken glass. The investigation yielded more questions than answers. No fingerprints, no signs of forced entry, just a haunting emptiness that lingered in every corner of the mansion. We were piecing together a puzzle with missing pieces, and it gnawed at me like an unsolvable riddle. Days turned into weeks as the case grew colder. The mansion became a forbidden place in my thoughts, its eerie presence haunting my dreams. I found myself retracing my steps that fateful night, overanalyzing every detail, every shadow that had seemed to move at the corner of my eye. Then late one night, as I lay in bed, a faint noise roused me from my restless slumber. I sat up, my heart pounding, and strained to listen. The sound was distant, a soft scraping like footsteps on wet pavement. I reached for my service weapon, slipping it from its holster with trembling hands. I moved through my darkened apartment, my senses on high alert. The rain outside had intensified, its rhythm a symphony of unease. The shadows seemed to play tricks on me, and every creak of the floorboards echoed like a sinister whisper. Just as I was about to dismiss my paranoia as a product of exhaustion, a sound came from my living room. A whisper so faint it could have been imagined. My breath caught, and I held my breath, my gaze fixed on the doorway leading to the living room. "Come off, officer," a voice murmured, like a serpent's hiss. My heart raced, and I stepped cautiously toward the living room. There in the darkness stood a figure. My flashlight lay on the coffee table, and I hesitated, unsure of my next move. The figure stepped into the faint light filtering through the windows. It was him, the murderer. His eyes gleamed with malevolence, and a twisted smile played across his lips. My hand tightened around my weapon, but before I could react, he vanished into the shadows. The sensation of being watched returned, more intense than ever. I retraced my steps back to the mansion, the place where it had all started. Rain soaked my clothes, and my footsteps echoed like a relentless drumbeat against the pavement. The mansion loomed ahead, a haunting reminder of the unsolved mystery. As I entered the abandoned building, a voice whispered in the wind, "You can't escape, officer." I raised my flashlight, its beam slicing through the darkness. The room where the murder had occurred was as I remembered it, stained, decaying, and haunted by a presence that refused to fade. But this time, the room held something new, a message written in blood on the wall. "It's not over." Panic clawed at my chest as I backed away from the chilling message. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, but a determination rooted me in place. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions. I had to uncover the truth, no matter how terrifying. The days blurred into nights as I delved deeper into the case, poring over evidence and chasing leads that seemed to dissolve like smoke. The darkness had consumed me, and every corner held the promise of revelation and danger. The line between reality and nightmare began to blur, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being toyed with. Then, one night, as I stood in the mansion once more, the shadows coalesced into a form. The murderer materialized before me, his eyes gleaming with a madness that sent shivers down my spine. "You can't hide, officer," he hissed, a sinister grin stretching across his face. I raised my weapon, my hand steady despite the dread that consumed me. "You won't escape justice," I retorted, my voice surprisingly resolute. He laughed, a mirthless, chilling sound that reverberated through the room. Then, with a swift movement, he lunged at me, disappearing into thin air just before our bodies would have collided. My breath came in ragged gasps as I stood there, my heart pounding against my ribs. The realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. The murderer was more than just flesh and blood. He was a phantom, a specter that defied logic and reason. As I left the mansion for what could be the last time, a whisper reached my ears. "Until next time, officer." Days turned into months, and the case remained unsolved. The line between reality and nightmare blurred further, and I questioned my own sanity. The murderer's whispers haunted my thoughts, a constant reminder that some darknesses were beyond the grasp of the law. The mansion remained a symbol of the unknown, a place where reality and the supernatural intersected. The rain still fell, painting the world in shades of gray, but the true darkness lay within the shadows. The whispers that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere, a chilling reminder that some terrors couldn't be caged or understood.